G'day everyone, and welcome to another excitement-filled Toon podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Newcastle United from the Southern Hemisphere, the original and best Newcastle United podcast from these waters. And we are all absolutely buzzing, as I am quite sure every single Newcastle fan around the world is. We have got to our first major cup final since 2003, I believe it is. 2003 when we were at Cardiff, but 1999 since we got to Wembley. So as you can see, I'm joined by Lee and Craig, and we have got our names etched in stone for the night because we are that buzzing. We are in fact going to Wembley. Craig, how you doing, mate? You're obviously buzzing.
Absolutely out of the moment. When that final whistle went, you could have picked me off the ceiling. It was just fucking glorious because I didn't think that ref was going to blow until they scored another 2 goals. The bald-headed prick. But now, cracking result, out of the moon, as is everyone.
Lee, get any sleep last night?
I was all right, actually. I slept pretty well. Apart from the Ben kicking us and punching us all the way through the night and stealing me pillow and stuff, but that did at least help me get up on time. So
that's fair enough.
But I've been up since, obviously, same as you, Mark and Craig. Actually, I've been up since just before 6 because over here was a 6 a.m. kick-off, and then obviously you have to go to work straight afterwards. You have to try and focus on the job at hand, and you kind of you're trying to absorb all the content that's pumping out. It's been a long but absolutely fantastic day, hasn't it? And it's a bloody heat wave as well, so I'm sweating.
It's been toasty today. Yeah, it's been really toasty in Brisbane. So we'll obviously be running through a lot of what's gone on in the match. The big talking points. Obviously, we are probably going to get a little bit carried away and a little excited over this one, so we'll try not to drag it on too long. We'll go through the team lineups and then probably just sort of round things off with a little bit of a transfer window roundup, which was a little bit underwhelming, it has to be said, but it'll be remiss of us not to at least mention a few things. So we'll start off with the team lineups for the game. Obviously, we weren't sure what was going to happen. There was a lot of talk before the game that, Isak may get the nod over Wilson, or, we may sort of try and change a few things up. But unfortunately, or fortunately, as it turns out, we went in with exactly the same squad again. So Nick Pope in goal, Trippier, Shah, Botman, and Byrne making up that formidable backline. Thank you very much, Lee. I'm reading this off another piece of paper. I forgot the visual cue for those watching on YouTube. Longstaff, Bruno, and Willock in our midfield, with Miggy, Wilson, and Joe Linton up front. Before we get onto the Southampton side, Lee, any surprises that we didn't change things up, particularly given the cameo the other day that St. Maximin and Isak both managed to pull out for us?
Nah, look, let's just assume for a minute that he did start ASM and Isak, and let's just assume that it went tits up and we didn't make it to the final. He would have been dragged over the coals for not playing his strongest team. There's obviously an argument for saying, well, the ASM's strong and Isak's strong, and Callum Wilson in particular is struggling in front of goal, and they're all perfectly valid arguments, but we're talking about the same team that has been doing the business for the entire season. So we were on the precipice of making our first final, since '99, and it would have been a bloody bold of Eddie Howe to drop the 2 players who had got us all this way. The likes of Longstaff or Willock probably would have been sacrificed for ASM and Isak, or just ASM, and Isak might have came in for Callum Wilson. But I think it would have been unfair to drop those guys. They've done tremendous to get us where we are in the league, as well as getting us into the League Cup final or semi-final at this stage, obviously. No, there was no surprises. This is our strongest team. It's settled, and it would have been completely nuts to change it, I think.
No, that's fair enough. Craig, you along the same lines as that?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping there'd be 1 or 2 little fresh faces in there just to shake it up a little bit, because Southampton, they arrested 9 players, I think, from their FA Cup game, so they would have been pretty much fresh-faced. I know we had the full week off as well, but it would have been good to see Isak maybe getting a bit longer of game time, and maybe same for Maxi as well. But again, in Eddie we trust, and you can't fault the work that starting 11's done in the first 20 games of the season so far.
Yeah, the armchair managers around the country saying that we should have started Isak or anything like that. It's hard to argue with the results that Eddie has getting at the moment. So we have our opinions, and me personally, I'm at the point where I'd like to see some changes just because of getting some fresh legs in, giving players a rest, because of the style of football we play is pretty tiring. It's pretty heavy on the legs. We probably don't have the squad depth to rotate regularly, but it would have been nice to have kind of given a few players a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a breather, maybe try and recharge Callum Wilson's batteries a little bit. But let's not beat about the bush here. It was the result we all wanted in the end, and the team kind of almost picks itself at the moment, given how well they're doing. So Southampton side, Bazanu in goal, I believe that is. Bree, Lianco, Bednarek, Salazu, Walker-Peters, Diallo, Alcaraz, Ward-Prowse, Adam Armstrong gets a start, and Adams up front as well. Now, obviously, Adam Armstrong came on against us in the first leg, sort of showed a little bit to us. Obviously scored with his arm, albeit, but caused us a few problems. Craig, did you see anything different in there? Were you surprised that Coletta Sarr was actually on the bench when he was available, given he was probably prime material to wind the Newcastle players up? Or did you think that was probably a good move to bench him, keep him out of the hot seat, and sort of go with their more recognised players that were on form?
Yeah, I think the second option there, the more recognised form. He had a tough game against Maxi in that last half an hour. Obviously, that's I think it was Maxi who drew the foul, which got him sent off. And that starting 11 there, based on what we've seen today, they shouldn't be in the Premier League position they're in, because they did give us one hell of a fight. But yeah, Adam Armstrong caused us a few little troubles. He had that one shot which Pope saved really well. That could have been a game changer of that one. But yeah, he was a bit of a nuisance. He gave Byrne a bit of a run around. It was basically like Dan Byrne chased around Ryan Fraser for a certain time. The height difference was uncanny. But he's always been that little bit of a nuisance in terms of a player. A little bit of a terrier. He'll always get in. And he's not afraid of a bit of a tackle as well. Is he one that we let go too early? Probably not. Is he good enough for our team now if we're to get him back? Absolutely not. But he's a good fit for Southampton, that's for sure.
I think he's in that role of a couple of players that have come good since we let them go, where they probably needed that kick up the arse to get their heads on straight about how big they were and how much effort they still needed to put in to make it at the top level. And to be fair to Adam Armstrong and a couple of others, I mean, they've all, I mean, Ivan Toney's the other one. They've really proved themselves in a lower league and then stepped up. And I don't think they ever got the game time at Newcastle. And to be honest, they were probably never going to, because they just never really did enough to warrant that game time. So it was a good move for them, good move for us. It's not a case of the one that got away. I like what you said though, like Southampton, the way they played and the fight that they put up. I think they've definitely got that new manager bounce. And I think they're certainly capable of pulling themselves out of trouble in the Premier League if they continue to play like that week in, week out, because I was actually pretty impressed with their fight and their determination. And, look, they're up against a side that's conceding absolutely bugger all goals this season. And they caused us some issues at the back, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But Lee, any major scares in that lineup for you, or you're literally just looking at it as the normal?
No, I mean, I was quite surprised to start Archie Adams, although I'm not an expert on their team, so I wouldn't necessarily know who they replace him with. But I do remember him getting a bit of a slating on the Southampton forum after the last game, because there's pretty much to a man, woman and child on that forum. They were all saying that it was absolute donkey. Couldn't score to save his life, and obviously he had that chance and fluffed it last week at St. Mary's. So slightly surprised to see him start. Adam Armour, he's a little ferret, and he's got a good eye for a run. He's a little terrier, but the problem with him, has always been that he doesn't get you goals, doesn't get you enough goals anyway. And I think we've seen in 2 games now that he does find himself in a promising position, and in both occasions he hasn't been able to, at least legally, finish it off with a goal. I mean, you could argue Nick Pope was just too good from. You can argue that he might have tried something slightly better in front of Nick Pope, but that's the whole point, isn't it? You know, the good players know how to put those things away. Otherwise, the rest of the team, I think there was 4 changes in this team, but you know, Salusi at the back, he's pretty good. Walker Peters is pretty decent. Did they change the keeper from last week? I feel like the keeper is different.
I think they did, yes. I think
yeah.
they did.
So that's maybe a little bit of a surprise. I'm not sure why. I don't know who the typical number 1 is, but I mean, Bazuna's number 31, so I presume it's not him. So that was a bit of a surprise. But otherwise, no. I mean, they did play very well, and it was very similar to last week. We'll probably get into this, but this game of 2 halves both times, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. They've had to come out and kind of try to push out. But we'll get on to the game now. I mean, we may as well start talking about the hot topics throughout the match. Obviously, massive crowds, wall flags, another good display. Crowd was definitely up for it. Another full house, which was surprising given, you know, I think the crowd was noisy to begin with, which obviously everyone was going to be up for it. It's like semi-final of the cup, first one for God knows how long, and it's at home. And you know, the last time we got to a semi-final was against Chelsea, and they were doing them all away from home at Wembley because they were trying to recoup some money or something. So look, the idea behind the crowds, you know, maybe not quite being up for it because they're cup games and the crowds are normally a little bit more subdued, that was thrown out the window straight away. They were absolutely fantastic from the off. Players came out seemingly on a mission to kill the game off pretty early. They went hell for leather at Southampton. Southampton did not get a look in for the first few minutes of the game. It was all Newcastle going forward. And before everyone got settled in their seats, Sean Longstaff pops up with an absolutely cracking finish on 5 minutes. Lee, you tell us what your feelings were on the first one, because obviously he's come in for a little bit of stick recently because he's been killing pigeons in row Z at the moment. But you know, take nothing away from the guy. He's worked hard. He's continued working hard, and he's finally getting his shooting boots on. Well,
I mean, this is the first goal I think he scored at St. James's in 2 years. I think I heard that or read that. So that kind of gives you an idea of, you know, his lack of goal threat at home. I'm not sure what his away record is, but certainly at home, that's not the best. But it's wonderful to see him do it. I mean, he's a Geordie lad. He's black and white through and through. His whole family are. The TV kind of panned around to the stands. You can see Matty was there, and the rest of the family were there, all kind of getting excited when he scored the first one. It's a nice reward for his endeavour. You know, the one thing you can't take away from Longy is that he puts in the effort every game for the full 90. He's back and forwards, up and down. I think he regularly does the most distance of any player in our team every single game. He's putting the effort in, and you know, it's been said before by everyone really that if he could just add goals to his game, he'd be on another level. And I don't know, maybe Alan Shearer's been, you know, the little word that he's been having in his shell have actually started to stick, and he's, you know, he could have had a hat-trick in this game easy. You know, the one that he hooked flashed it just past the post was a lovely strike as well. And his second goal was brilliant as well. But no, it's just wonderful to see him do that. And it was also very good to see Newcastle go for the throat straight from the off. Like that was I think it was the first 5 minutes, wasn't it? That he got that first goal.
He scored on 5 minutes, exactly. Yeah. So
that's what you want. That's what you want. You need the crowd.
You don't want anything less off your players than just to go, right, we're 1-0 up. We're going to try and get an early goal and kill this game off.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to keep the crowd on side as well. Like you sort of touched on it. The crowd was good from the off, but there were definitely times when it kind of settled down, particularly the second half for obvious reasons, but even in the first. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because it's a midweek game or if it's because it's a cup game or if it's because it's a midweek cup game. That it's never the same during the week. Everyone's got to go to work the next day. You can't get completely shitted. I think that's got a big thing to do with it. And so you know, No, but it was, but because of that reason, and because the crowds are sometimes a little bit different, you did need to get in there quick and get that goal nice and early and settle some of the nerves and start to get the party atmosphere going, and we did it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that though, because some of the best nights I've had at St James's Park were night games, and especially when we were playing in the Champions League. Those nights were absolutely fantastic, and the atmosphere was incredible back then. So if we can get that sort of thing back again to the football club, I think it'll actually be quite nice. So Craig, I mean, obviously, it's nice to see Longstaff score. We've kind of covered it, and I think Jack did on the podcast the other night as well, where people are kind of focused far too much on the negatives with him, and he's not really getting the credit for what he is doing right. And I mean, Lee sums it up there, where everyone's been saying, look, if he manages to add finishing to his game, then he's going to be a great player for us. And it feels like we've almost been saying that for a while now about a number of players, Miggy included. And we've kind of seen them start to develop that side of their game. They're starting to become a bit more of a threat. So Miggy's getting closed out in games because he's been on a hot streak. If Longstaff can start scoring as regularly as well, that pulls that pressure back off Miggy and hopefully frees him up, because at the moment he's not getting that space because they are quite aware that he's going to cut inside, but they need to cut that sort of avenue out for him. So he's getting closed down quickly. But what I did notice, and I want to hear your opinion on his first goal, certainly, he didn't seem to rush it. He didn't seem to snatch at it or try to overpower it. He's just placing the ball into the net. Very in control, as opposed to kind of this panicked, oh shit, it's near, I've got to kick it and hopefully do something with it, and it's skied off and it's come off his shin or something. What did you make of his composure? What did you make of the goal?
The build-up of the goal was fantastic. The footwork from Bruno to get it to Trips, to get it through those passages of play, was fantastic. And Trips does what he does best. It's another assist for him. But yeah, you're absolutely right about the finish. It was calm, it was composed, and I think Lee hit the nail on the head before we looked chat with Shearer. If there's anybody in football around linked with Newcastle you want to get finishing advice from, it's him. There's nobody better around, and any word of advice from him is just going to give you that little bit of extra confidence. And that's all he's needed. Just somebody in his ear say, look, mate, you're getting in the positions, you're doing well. And I think it is literally a case of, you're not going to win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. At least he's having the attempts on goal. Yes, a lot of them haven't come off, and a lot of them have been killing pigeons, as we mentioned. But if this is the start of a nice purple patch for him, then happy days. All better for him, the club, and the fans,
Yeah, for sure.
And we
so
need
if
we need it as well, because we're not exactly banging the goals in right now, are we?
No, exactly. Yeah. So if someone else hits the ground, hits on a patch like Miggy did, it'll be more than welcome. Yeah, it'll be great. So obviously, we kept on pressing them. We were still going for the throat. 21 minutes on the clock. As I said, look, we've spurned another couple of chances, half chances. Longstaff's was probably the best. As you said, Lee, he's kind of cut in, brought the ball under control really, really nicely, sort of flicked it over to his left foot, and then just curled it wide of the post. That would have been an absolutely great individual bit of skill to bring that goal off. But the cream of the crop of the goals for tonight, I think, probably Longstaff's second. It was a full team effort. And they were right at the back. Nick Pope had the ball at one point, I believe. They played it out from the back, played it along. Joe Linton's gone down the left-hand side. He's played it through to Willock. Willock's gone through, beat his man, come back, and just placed it literally on a postage stamp for Longstaff to power home. Perfectly in control of that ball as well. Absolutely gorgeous piece of skill and a beautiful team goal. It was fantastic to see. I've watched it back a number of times already. It's just when those sorts of things come off and it's a full team goal, right from the back, it's just wonderful to watch. So Craig, how excited were you going in 3-0 up on aggregate at that point?
I genuinely, words can't describe the emotions that was going through my mind. I was already thinking, right, I need to get on Trivago, find flights. I need to get home. I need to get to this final. I will have them booked at half time. I'm thinking that. Calm down. We're only 10, 15 minutes into the game. There's still a lot of football to be played. But yeah, you're absolutely right about the build-up of the goal. I don't think a Southampton player touched the ball or even got close to the ball in the build-up. It was absolutely superb. But again, thinking of Longstaff, if you rewind the clock to the Leicester game at St James's Park, where he missed that sitter in, I think it was the opening 10 minutes. 2-3 weeks later, whenever it was, again, the parallels between that Longstaff and this Longstaff seem to be night and day, black and white. And again, where this extra confidence has come from, I'm not sure. But long may continue again.
No, yeah, definitely. Lee, what did you make of that goal? And do you agree that like you're seeing this like progression of Longstaff into this more confident player, and he's not dwelling on that past, which is obviously a good thing. If he can kind of go, right, I've missed it, bang, out of my mind, straight on to the next one, and still put his effort in. Yeah,
well, I mean, time will tell on that one. It's hard to kind of come to that conclusion on the back of one game where he scored a couple of goals. Certainly hope that's the case. Absolutely. His second goal was a lot like, if you think about it, a lot like the goals Willock was getting when he first joined us, where he arrives late into the box from midfield right through the middle, Whereas Willock, for this particular goal, was absolutely brilliant down the wing. He was with his overlap with Big Joe. And then he had that clever cut back to Miggy, who, to be honest with you, Miggy just basically kicked it into the space, didn't he? I'm not even sure he looked. Like, he was just like, kick it into space. What? Like that. And the thing is, the Southampton defence had been dragged a bit out of position as well. They kind of gravitated towards that corner for whatever reason. And as I say, that late run from Longy to just find that open space, he was unmarked. And I'm pretty sure the first goal, as well as the second, took a bit of a deflection, just ever so slightly. Took a little touch from at least one, and I think the first one might have even took it off two. And those are the little details that kind of allow the ball to go in or not. Sometimes it's the keeper's anticipations. He's not expecting it to get a touch or whatever. So I think when we go up 2-0, it's party time. It's kind of almost unbelievable in many ways. You're sitting there thinking, Christ, is this going to be like a cricket score? Are we going to absolutely destroy these guys and really just romp our way to Wembley? It didn't turn out that way, but that's kind of how I felt after 20 minutes. Craig's right. There was an awful lot of football to play, and if the last game had shown us anything, it was that you can't just assume that Southampton will sort of lie down and let us tickle their bellies, and that's how it went. But I mean, what a bloody start that was! 20 minutes,
fantastic start,
absolutely perfect. Perfect. That's exactly what we needed.
You can't wish for any better start to the game than that. As you said, it's like a lot of football still to be played, but it was looking for all the world that we were going to dominate that game. We were going to end up putting a cricket score on. We were going to win it comfortably, canter home. Unfortunately, as good as Willock was for the second goal, he was partially to blame, well, quite a lot to blame, for the Che Adams goal for Southampton on 29 minutes. Willock had the ball and kind of all the defense was pushing out, and he's passed it back straight into the path of a Southampton player who's just rolled onto it. Like Che Adams, he's literally just kicked out in front of him, rolled onto it, and literally just passed it into the bottom corner past Nick Pope. It was the easiest goal I've ever seen anyone score against Newcastle this season by a mile. And it was so out of character for the team to be that out of position defensively. But I think it was just because they were caught unawares by this misplaced ball by Willock. And to be honest, again, we come down to, he does so much, so I'm not going to criticize him too hard. He's done brilliantly for that second goal. He does work really hard for that team. But like Longstaff, where we say he needs to start to finish better, Willock needs to improve his sort of possession and his passing, because that does let him down from time to time, and he would be so much better if he had that ball retention that someone like a Bruno or a Joe Linton had to go with his massive pace and skill. So Lee, did you see Willock being really at fault? Because I do, and I'm willing to admit that I kind of felt that he was putting the defense, he hung the defense out to dry by a bad pass. But
yeah, I mean,
these
look,
things happen.
That's obviously what happened on the pitch. He came deep to receive the ball. There was I think was it Joe Linton who was behind him pretty much. There was a guy obviously pushing Willock, so there was a bit of press on from Saints. But if Willock had have known that Joe Linton was behind him, he could have done a little back heel or something. Joe Linton was in loads of space. Like, it would have got to him. It would have been, danger over pretty much. I think with Willock, as well as with Longstaff, they sometimes lose their concentration at certain times. This was probably one of those examples where Willock's coming onto the ball, he's coming short to try and help out and play from the back. And I don't think he's fully aware of where, I forget who he's trying to pass to now, but whoever was trying to pass to, I don't think he was fully aware of where they were, and he's kind of assumed they're in a different position. And like you say, he's giving the ball away to Shea Adams. It is one of those things, and there was a lot of, and I've been seeing this a lot lately, there's a lot of loose passes in this game, particularly after we scored the second goal. I don't know if that's nerves, given that we're 2-0 up, 3-0 on aggregate, and you're thinking, bloody hell, we're coasting here. I don't know if Southampton maybe is to change something in their formation, because they had to go for it, obviously. I don't know if because I think they were 4 at the back or something, and then they were 3 at the back and changed to 4, or was 4 at the back and they changed to 3.
They definitely changed. They brought a player on. I think it was for an injury, wasn't it? When you just double-check my notes. Yes, it was. Yeah, and then they changed up their formation, and the change in how they were playing and how they coped with us and how much they caused us problems really came about as soon as that change happened. That's where they started causing us a few more problems.
Yeah, and I was going to say again, I was on the forums last week, and a lot of them were saying that I don't know why they persist with this particular formation at the back, because they are absolutely useless at it. And if this is a basis of or an example of how they are with a different formation at the back, then you'd have to see they're quite right, the Saints fans. Like they were a different animal completely when they changed it. I think they started to push, they started to press. They had nothing to lose. Willock's coming short to try and help out. He hasn't quite realised where the man is that he's passing to, or perhaps he's just underhit it. He might have been trying to pass it to Pope for all I know. There was a better option. He could have went down the line. He could have went behind himself with a little turn maybe. But look, take nothing away from Shea Adams. I said at the top there that his fans, the Saints fans, reckon he's a bit of a donkey in front of the goal. But he took that goal really well. He set himself up properly. He struck it into the far corner from the other side of the pitch. You say it's easy. I'm not so sure that is an easy goal. Obviously, the Newcastle defence, as well as Nick Pope, is slightly out of position because obviously they're expecting the play just to progress down that side, and suddenly here's Shea Adams kicking it to the other end. But he got the shot right. It bounced right in front of Pope. It skips past him. I think it had been raining at this point, so everything kind of went right from it. It was I thought it was a very good goal from Shea Adams, especially given that he didn't score that many. No,
for sure. Craig, your thoughts on the goal that we conceded?
Sloppy is one word. Unexpected was another. Because again, pretty much there, I wouldn't say we're in cruise control, but we weren't exactly inviting the pressure and letting them come to us, wanting them to score effectively. But yeah, the finish was absolutely superb. Pope caught unawares for obvious reasons. He's not expecting the ball to come at him at such pace as well. That accuracy and that pace is just a rocket of a shot. And it just goes to show what type of goals it takes to beat this defence as well. Because we're not conceding scrappy goals where it's like getting bounced around the 6-yarder and then it's just getting whacked in or whatever. If you look at the likes of Wolves, that was a screamer that had to beat Pope. That was a screamer that beat them in the morning. And there's been a few that have had to be like that. So we are still resolute in defence, obviously. They're just lapsing concentration. But you're absolutely right with Willock. He does need to get his thinking cap on and just be that little bit more intelligent and sharp with his passing, because that's what's stopping him from becoming to that next stage of a quality player. And it's going to hold him back from potentially getting an England call-up maybe in the next few years.
Yeah, you can't afford to have those sorts of lapses in your game if you want to play for England.
How old is Joe Willock?
22, 23?
Something like that. He's not very old.
Yeah, he's got time on his
yeah,
side.
Yeah.
He's still a kid.
No, it's just like, you've got so much competition in where he kind of plays for England that you're going to have to kind of be pretty tight with your game and not just eliminate those little sloppy balls. And I think we've got a hell of a player, and I think we've got a hell of a player anyway. Don't get me wrong, but he just goes to that next level, as Craig said, if he can eliminate those little silly mistakes and just sloppy ball control and passing out of his game. So, look, that goal really did galvanize Southampton. They'd changed formation. They got a little bit of joy. They've scored the goal. They're kind of back in the game for all intents and purposes. Now, the little bit sort of niggly towards the half time. We got into the half time. I think most of us were hoping that, look, Eddie Howe's going to get stuck into them at half time. He's going to sort of tighten things up, get them all refocused. And we came out in the second half, and it was pretty much more of the same, where Southampton made it difficult for us. They pressed us. They didn't give us space. And the game kind of descended into that niggly game like the Leeds game was, and like the other Southampton game was in the first leg, where we weren't given the time or the space. We were getting these stupid little fouls against us. We were getting things that weren't given our way, that most of our players, and we'll touch on this because of Bruno. There's a lot of those little niggly fouls that the players thought they should be given that weren't, and I think it was causing a lot of frustration. It was breaking up a lot of the play. Craig, did you see Southampton kind of really getting back into the game? Because while they got a bit more control in the game, apart from, say, one shot where Pope's pulled off an absolute wonder save from Armstrong, I believe it was,
yeah,
when called upon, like, Pope's doing the right thing, but we didn't give that many clear-cut chances away. Even though Southampton were controlling a lot more of the ball, we sat very deep and invited pressure. How did you see the rest of that half going up until the point where we'll discuss in a minute, where Bruno gets sent off?
I think Southampton in the second half created the better chances than what we did. I can't remember us having a clear-cut chance in the second half.
No.
If we did, it mustn't have been that of a good one. But yeah, you're absolutely right with Armstrong. He had that gilt-edged chance to make it 2-2. Pope stood firm, stood his ground, and does what he's done best all season. And the other chance that they had, I think it was in just clicked over the 90 minutes. They had a corner, and they played it to the edge of the box, and their player was in a lot of space. And I was thinking this is going to hit the back of the net, but he skied it over the roof of the Aggregate, thankfully. I think if that had went in and that went 2-2, that would have been a very nervy last few minutes and so on.
Yep.
But there was only two chances that ring a bell. It was a lot of passage and play in the middle, a lot of sloppy passes, as already mentioned on. Not a very good quality second half in terms of football from either side, to be honest.
No, I mean, Isak and St. Maximin both came on. Neither of them really touched the ball all that much. Didn't create a lot. Isak then gets poleaxed by a free kick from
Ward-Prowse.
I think it was Ward-Prowse, wasn't it? Yeah, he's absolutely. But we were discussing this before we went on air, and we always complain when you see a player in a wall that ducks out the way, and then teams score a goal because he's been scared to get hit by the ball. Isak, in fairness to him, stood his ground, got smacked in the head, and ends up going off with what we all think is concussion.
Yeah.
So maybe not the ideal thing, but it could have stopped that sort of equalising goal on the night and made it a little bit of a nervy finish for us. Lee, what did you make of the rest of that game being the niggly bits and pieces that it was, and no real clear-cut chances for Newcastle created? We were sitting very, very deep.
Yeah, we were. I mean, there was that Bruno off the post shot that he took, which, oh God, was only a few inches away from being a beautiful curled kick into the corner. That would have been absolutely sensational. 3-1, definitely game over at that point. It was very similar to last week. I think, I mean, I know you said there that you expected Eddie Howe to give him a bit of a rocket and to come over in the second half and really have a go, but there wasn't any need. The game was essentially won. It didn't look like Southampton were going to score another 2 goals just to get level, let alone 3 goals to actually win it. So I think, as it was last week, I think Eddie Howe decided that the better course of action was to sit back and rely on our defensive solidity to keep them out, yes, you obviously then end up conceding all of the possession, and it's a very nervous way to watch Newcastle. How many times have we seen Newcastle play where we've got a lead or we're holding on for a draw, and the opposition's just coming at you in waves and waves, and then whenever you get the ball, Newcastle get the ball, they just lump it into space and they kind of reset it, and you think, Christ, here we go again, and it's like 20-30 minutes of it, and it's a very difficult watch, and it must be bloody hard work for the players as well. But I assume it's a lot easier on the legs, given that there's obviously still league games we've got to play, even this weekend against Hammers. That it's slightly easier to sit back, maintain your shape as best you can. Don't go chasing after balls. Don't use the high press. Let them come to you. Chances are they're going to not do anything because we're really solid, and see out the game. And I think that's what you did last week. I think that's what you did this week. There was no other reason for us to be sitting back like we did. I mean, I've got a picture in my head at one point where Southampton basically just walked out of their half, and we're all in our shape, in our own half, just waiting for them to come at us. You wouldn't do that if you were still trying to go ahead and get another goal, and there was no need for it. We were already comfortable. As much as it was difficult to watch, and kind of thinking, Jesus, this is really scrappy. Passes are going all over the place. Southampton are pressing. Armour gets in. Could have made it 2-2. Would that have given them the rocket to go and get the third? Quite possibly. I mean, Christ, Gentle Ben, the referee, he put on like 10 minutes of seven added. Yeah. In reality, there was another 20 minutes to go at this point, and you think, and that's what you play for. You play for that extra time as the team that needs to get the goal, and it's difficult. I really hope we don't do that in the final. Like, if it's Man United against us in the final, we will probably come a cropper.
If we do that that was kind of what was worrying me as well, I think, watching that and then coming away at the end of the game going, I'm absolutely buzzing because we're through to a final, but that was tough to watch.
Hard work.
It was hard work, and if we do that against Man United, that they will beat us, and probably comfortably as well.
More than likely. And it's interesting as well that Isaac and ASM weren't really, because we were sitting so far back, they weren't getting a chance to do anything with the ball themselves, ASM had one or two little goals, but that was it.
I found that a little bit strange when if you're going to bring Isak and Maxi on, why not at least try and push up the field a little bit more?
Well,
that's the thing. But you're bringing, if you're going to hold back and you're going to sit back, don't bring Isak on, bring Maxi on, leave him up top on his own, aka what Steve Bruce did for his entire career here, and then basically just try and sort of flood the midfield to create more bodies there and more competition. Having another forward on while playing that style of football just didn't make sense to me.
But Isaac hasn't got a lot of match fitness. Eddie Howe said it himself. He's not really had a lot of training.
No, that's fair. Actually,
the games that are becoming thick and fast. If there's always a chance that we'll like the game last week where he breaks away down the wing, cuts it inside, and Joe Linton's there to score the goal. If there was an opportunity to break, we would have broke. And then you've got someone like Isaac chasing behind. Let's say ASM's got down the wing. You've got someone like Isaac coming through the middle, ready to slot it home. So it was very much a counter-attack and sit back and try and hit them on the break. It's just we didn't get really a chance to hit them on the break, frankly. I mean, I think we were pretty much all happy with what we got. There was definitely some nerves creeping in our field as well.
Yes, yeah.
And
the crowd started to get nervy as well, and that really played on the...
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. And that all goes into the mix, man. Like, that's all part and parcel of the whole game management side of things that you've got to be very focused on.
Yeah.
We're lucky in the sense that it was Southampton who are rock bottom of the league and struggling to score goals. But like I say, if that's Man United, it's a different story for me.
Would we have done that against a better side, though?
I don't know, man. Like, I mean, if it's in, well, let's assume it's in the final and we're 1-0 up and it's 20 minutes to go. I think we would try and do that because I think that's what Eddie Howe would like us to do. Because if we keep on attacking, you run the risk of opening up space. You're getting tired, so you can't track back. Man United will bring on 6 subs or something, 5 subs, whatever it is, and all their subs will be pretty good, and they'll just tear you apart. So I think there's a danger of it. It's going to be hard work watching it.
Indeed, it's going to be nervy. No nails left by the end of that one. But anyway, last major talking incident. I mean, obviously we've covered the fact that we played 10 minutes of extra time, of added time out of 7. It was like into Liverpool time sort of thing. I was fully expecting us to concede just purely and simply because it was dragging on, and the stupid ref would not blow his whistle. It was like I swear he's lost his whistle at this point.
Was that extra time because of Isaac going down in for the concussion?
I think so. I think it was like because of that, because we were deemed to be time wasting. We made some substitutes, made a Murphy substitution that we then took him back off again. And he was kind of like just joking around and it was pretty funny to watch. But anyway, obviously the big talking point and something that I think is worthwhile mentioning is Bruno going off with a red card, given as a yellow straight away. The ref goes over, gets called over by VAR, goes to watch it in super slow-mo, and then obviously it looks horrendous while it's being slowed down and frame by frame as he collides with his ankle. My feeling personally is it was a harsh red card, straight red, because he was not lunging in. He basically went to get the ball. The ball was there. The Southampton players literally stuck his foot out underneath Bruno's and got clobbered by it. Now, it's not like Bruno was out of control. It's not like he was flying in. It was just a mistimed tackle made worse by slowing it right down and by the Southampton player having a bad first touch and then overstretching to try and get the ball back. Craig, what did you make of the red card? Are you disappointed that was given the Liverpool one that wasn't not so long ago?
I was just about to mention that in the Brighton game, the Liverpool player, I can't remember who came out and apologized and said, yeah, that Liverpool player should have been sent off. And it was the same referee, I believe, as well. So maybe he's making amends for his calamity in the FA Cup game, Liverpool-Brighton.
By sending one of our players off instead.
By sending one of our players off, yeah. It should have been a Liverpool player going up, but you'll send one of ours. That's just how I look, to be honest. But, yes, it was a harsh red card because, again, when you put it in slow motion, it always looks worse than it is. Could this actually work in our favour, though? Could Bruno be rested, get the game time off that he needs? He hasn't particularly been playing as well as he was earlier on in the season. Yeah. A few that have returned from the World Cup probably haven't. We do have some slim options in midfield to fill it. We can always push Joe into the middle. We've got Willock and Longstaff in there. Do we think it's going to be a 3-match ban? I reckon so, probably, unfortunately. Hopefully it's just the 1 or the 2, but yeah, I think it will be a 3. Should have been a red card, yes, but only just. More of a bright orange card rather than a red card.
Sin bin card.
Yeah.
Lee, what's your thoughts on the card?
Nah. And I hope we actually challenge this. We probably won't, but I hope we do. Look, the ball was loose. What's the fella's name? Dozy, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
First touch was horrific, and the ball is loose essentially. Now he goes in and tries to protect the ball, and he's at full stretch. His foot essentially goes across the ball into the way of where the ball was going to go, but he's at full stretch trying to regain control of the ball because of his terrible touch. Bruno's obviously sees the ball's free. He's coming in there to try and trap the ball. Now, yes, he makes contact. Yes, it looks horrendous in slow motion, but look, serious foul play, really? Yeah. The ball's open. The ball is there to be won. What are you supposed to do? Just stand back and say, "Oh, I'll just let that ball go wherever, and I'll let the guy get it back because he might do something that I can't predict." It's a nonsense. Like a yellow was probably right. You could say, "Look, that was a bit rash in the sense."
Oh, definitely a yellow. Yeah.
And the thing is, I think the reason that this went against him a little bit was because he was already starting to lose his head anyway.
Yeah.
There was a tackle from, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but he went down under a challenge from, I think maybe it's 2 Southampton players. And I think as he went down on the floor, did he deliberately grab the ball?
He grabbed the ball thinking he was going to get the free kick, and then the referee gives the ball against him.
Yeah, but it was a foul. It was a bloody obvious foul.
It was an obvious foul.
And that was kind of the culmination of a few other instances as well, and he was getting a bit annoyed. So, like, from the ref's perspective, he's already told them as well. He actually stood and said, like, calm down or whatever. And then he sees Bruno going into what looks like from certain angles is a sturdy challenge, let's say. Maybe it's an ill-advised one when you look at slow motion. But I think a yellow card was probably all it deserved. I think to give a red for that when it was a loose ball and the Southampton player has essentially put himself in danger in many ways.
Yeah.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but he's the one who's overstretching and he's going beyond the ball to try and claw it back, and he's put himself in the way. I think that's just ridiculous, and you can see Bruno. He's absolutely devastated going off.
He was gutted, wasn't
he? Yeah, he was crying tears again.
He wasn't very happy. He said on Twitter that was his first ever red card in his professional career. He's probably been close on a few occasions, hasn't he? Because he is a little bit of an ankle snapper at times.
He definitely wears his heart on his sleeve with us. I think he's bought well into the club mentality. He feels part of the team. He wants to win. He's got that winning mentality, but he needs to know where that line is.
He had that in him before he joined us, though. I mean, there was lots of videos of him, like a little terrier race. If he lost the ball, for example, he was going back and he was getting the ball back through hook or crook. So I don't want him to lose that side of it. And I don't think you can necessarily be blamed for getting this red as a straight red. I don't think you can necessarily be blamed for that. You could say, look, you should have been a bit calmer, a bit more composed. Maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But look, like I say, it was a loose ball. It could have been anybody.
Look, he's got to go for it.
Yeah, he's got to go for it. I can't just stand back and watch the damn ball.
Go back and have a look at the likes of Vieira in midfield, and he's winning the ball back, and he was an absolutely dominating force for Arsenal. And how many red cards did he get in his career?
Well,
because you're not going to get them all, and you don't want to take that away from the players for that drive to win. Otherwise, you're kind of diminishing their impact on the game.
Of course, that's the makeup of the player. That's one of the reasons why he's signed him in the first place, because of his determination. You can't really get that over him. He'll be a different player. But what I will also say as well is that's got to be one of the quickest VAR checks I think I've ever seen. Every time we get a VAR check, it takes about 5 days for them to say, "Oh, maybe you should have a look at the telly." Like this one, it was like
the response via radio.
Unless it's the Willock goal, that should have been.
Yeah,
allowed.
but by the time the referee's got his yellow in his pocket, the guy's getting called across to have a look at the screen. Like that was bloody quick, man. Anyway,
well, speaking of VAR, does anyone think we should have had a penalty in that game for the handball?
So that handball, I feel, would have been very, very harsh if that was given. I think Dan Burn, was it Dan Burn or Botman? Botman pushed the other player off him a little bit, and then because he was off balance, it's kind of hit his chest onto his arm. It wasn't really an obvious penalty, I don't think.
No, I'm not even entirely sure. I mean, the angles I saw during the game, I couldn't even really say for sure that it even had touched his arm. If it was very high bicep kind of area. Initially, it looked like his arm was waving around like he was trying to do like a 3-pointer dunk or something. But I think that would have been ridiculous. Just coming back to the Bruno thing, I do want to say though that he's pretty lucky. If this red card sticks and it is a 3-game ban, which is probably going to be, we've only got 3 games next until the final. Like if there was any more games or any fewer games rather, he would have missed the final because of this.
I'm kind of tempted. I know you're saying that, or maybe they might challenge this decision and try to get it overturned. Knowing our luck will do that. They'll say, "Oh no, it'll stick," but we're giving you an extra game just because you challenged it. So I'd kind of just take it and take it on the chin. He's going to be fresh for the final. Take it as that. Yeah. It's going to be a big miss in those 3 games, obviously.
He will, but look, he was injured not long ago, and we did pretty well without him in those games as well. So, with like Craig said, if you've got Longy, Joe, and Willock in the middle, you've got ASM on the wing, I assume. You've also got Gordon who can come in. Yeah, exactly. So, it's not the end of the world, but if he ends up missing the final,
not optimal, shall we say? But
it's not optimal. But if he misses the final,
if he's back for the final, then that's the main thing.
Yeah, if he would have missed the final, that would be the bigger impact, I think. Because it's such a big game, and anything could happen in a cup game.
No, for sure. Cool. So let's have a quick check over the stats. We'll add these to the screen. So 45% possession for Newcastle, 55 to Southampton. I guess that really shows how much we sat back in the second half, because I think the first 20 minutes or so of that game, it was just on a string for Newcastle players. 15 shots for Newcastle to 8 shots for Southampton. So even though they've had more possession, haven't done a lot with it. Had 3 shots on target. One of them Pope saved. One of them they scored, and one of them got, I can't remember. I think it was like just a just an easy kind of pickup for Pope or something like that anyway. But seven shots on target for Newcastle. I mean, we've created decent chances again, and that's without the likes of Bruno's going wide, Longstaff's going wide. So we've had chances again. We're slowly starting to build. 5 corners to 1 in favour of Newcastle, yet failed to score from one again. And then 14 fouls to Southampton to 10 for Newcastle. It was descending into that sort of a game where the fouls really started to mount up in the second half, I felt. Lee, you go first. Possession-wise, I'm actually surprised it's that close, to be honest, given the second half.
Yeah, it's not that much of a surprise, really, is it? We pretty much conceded that whole second half. But the story of that is that they still only had 8 shots on target. 8 shots at all in that game, and we had
3
15
on target. Yep.
So we've had nearly double the shots with less possession than Southampton's had. That, and that really tells the story of how we managed to keep them away from our goal for the majority of their possession. Got lucky with Adam in some ways, I suppose, Alma, where he could have done a little bit better, I think. Shots on targets, 7 to their 3. Again, probably all in the first 20 minutes. 5 corners we didn't do much with, as you said. The foul side of things, like I actually think the ref was being quite lenient towards us for a good part of this game, and then he sort of twisted it around and started going against us. But there was a lot of times when our lads were just going down. Our lads were going down, pretending to be injured or whatever, and then just hopping up and getting on with it as if they'd never been touched. I don't really like to see that, but there was definitely a lot of that going on. Wilson does it all the time, frankly. But yeah, look, the important number is 2 goals to 1.
Indeed. Craig, you happy enough with those stats, given the fact that we've come away with our record intact and a final slot booked?
Absolutely. Possession doesn't win you games, goals do. And that's what matters. That's all I'm happy about.
How much are we gutted about Pope conceding a goal after 10 million years?
It's going to happen. Don't care. It's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
He's conceded. When was the last time he's conceded more than 1 goal, though? Apart from like the
what was that stat? Game. There was that stat that said there'd been
Liverpool,
2 Monarchs.
I know. Liverpool away the last time we conceded.
Yeah, it was 2 Monarchs and 3
Monarchs, 3 prime ministers or something like that, wasn't it? Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with this, though. Like the records being like, in all competitions, they'll just change it now to be like in the Premier League, because that's one that that's just so the next one will be like, he hasn't conceded in 10 Premier League games or 9 or 8, wherever it is. And that'll be that'll be the new thing.
Changed to home games or something. And
that's always how it is.
There's always like statisticians waiting for some new record. It's like watching the NBA at times.
Yeah, and that's the first time we conceded in the first half, and donkeys as well.
Yeah. But the main thing is we're through. We're through.
Get in
the final, and
come on.
Dan Burn's got something to say. And
I'm happy. I'm going to get me suit measured. Come on, lads!
So, in case anyone didn't see that earlier on today, Sean Longstaff being interviewed.
Well, they didn't have loads of chances.
I'm happy. I'm going to get me suit measured. Come on, lads!
That's unbelievable, man.
Oh, what's Dan Burn like, man?
Dan Burn living the dream as a Newcastle fan, playing for Newcastle in a cup final. What more do you want?
Oh, he's absolutely loving it. He's one of us. He's living the dream. Him and Longy, all the Geordie lads must be absolutely flying.
Absolutely buzzing. Yeah. So look, we'll probably talked and waffled on enough about this without getting too carried away anymore. Let's have a quick roundup for. We're in a cup final. I still don't think it's properly sunk in. It's kind of like almost like, something's gonna go wrong. It's like this is Newcastle here. We're probably gonna get like some overruling like decision by the FA going, oh no, you haven't qualified via this route, so you're not allowed to appear in the final.
Bruno's red card has been extended to every player.
Yeah. Disqualified from the competition.
Just before we move on from this, though, I want to point out something that Dimmy put into the chat. We've only got 3 games before the final. Man United have got 7.
Wow.
2 of those against Barcelona. I think it's 2 against Barcelona. Yeah, 2 against Barcelona, home and away. They've got Leicester, they've got Leeds twice somehow, Palace, and obviously they've got to play Forest tomorrow morning for us. Yeah. That's got to be working in our favour. You've got to think that, there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can either look at, you might be a little bit too out of the kind of game mind or whatever, because you've been weeks, a week's break in between games, and Man United will be like constantly playing. But the other way of looking at it is we might be fresher than them; they might be knackered, and maybe we can get ourselves a nice early lead before they start to bring in the big hitters from the bench.
Yeah, look, if given our style of football, you've got to think that extra time off between games is going to favour us, being able to put that high press on, pressure them from the off, really keep a high tempo to the game. Don't let them settle on the ball.
It'll be for the full.
That's got to be our game.
Has to be for 90
has to
minutes,
be for the 90 minutes, yeah.
It's
and
the
that's
final.
the thing.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Rest up. Give Bruno his 3 weeks rest. Keep him fit in training. Organize it behind closed doors. Send him training with the under 21s or something. Who knows? Keep him some sort of game time up his sleeve in reserves, and then unleash him for the final. It should be good.
Can't wait. Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
I was like that within the last 2-3 minutes of the game. I knew we were going to win it because there was no way they were going to score 2 goals. But yeah, again, like you said, this is Newcastle United, and good things don't generally happen to us.
Exactly. It's so ingrained into us, isn't it? It's like there's something gonna go wrong here.
You know, I remember the semi-final with Chelsea at Wembley. I wasn't there. I was watching it in the pub with my father. And I remember when Rob Lee scored that goal with that cross from Shearer. And the noise inside the pub, there was drink flying everywhere, but the noise coming from the stadium must have just been incredible. I don't know anyone who was. I don't know if either of you were there, but the other 2 finals against Arsenal and Man United, which we didn't score in. Yes, we scored in that one there. I just want to hear that famous Geordie roar when the ball hits the back of the net at Wembley in front of however many thousands of fans are going to be there. And if war flags are allowed to put on a display, that's going to be one hell of a display shared around the world as well. And the name and brand of Newcastle United just going to be on that steam train of a runaway motion. And I can't fucking wait. It's going to be fucking amazing. Come on!
And don't forget, this is the perfect opportunity to win back the Trafalgar Square trophy.
I was just going to say, if we don't come back with the Carabao Cup, make sure we come back with a Trafalgar trophy.
Give him shit in the fountain, whatever you do, lads.
No, God, no. But it looks like everyone's heading down. Loads of people I've seen already saying, doesn't matter if I don't get a ticket, I'm still heading down. It's going to be a cracking day out. Going to be a great atmosphere. I'm going to soak it in, turn the whole city to black and white. It should be great. Everyone's up for this. Obviously, anyone listening to us in Australia, there's going to be a few meetups already starting to get organized around the major capitals for some of the supporter groups. I know Brisbane's looking to try and do it at the Pig and Whistle again, get that booked up nice and early. Aussie Mags are doing their usual down in Melbourne, and most of the capitals are going to organize something. So keep an eye out. We'll be trying to advertise some of that in the coming weeks as well for everyone. Yours truly, I will be off to Vegas, so I need to find somewhere over there, over the yonder pond. I won't be getting married, no, but it could get a messy day, given that the final will be about 7:30, 8:30 in the morning for me. And obviously Vegas doesn't sleep, so I'll be drinking at that time of the morning as well.
That's a great time for a game, mate. Great time.
That's a perfect game.
2:30 in the morning for me.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty mental over there.
I'm not getting shotgun married though. You're getting married.
No, neither am I. So
not by Elvis, no.
Nah.
If we win the cup, you have to get engaged.
No. No. We'll leave that. We'll leave that one for now, shall we? Anyway. So before we head off, obviously we've had the transfer window close as well. It's kind of was all the talk before the game, and then everyone realized, hang on a bit, we've actually got a cup semi-final to look forward to. Let's concentrate on that. The transfer window ended. Nothing really much happened. I guess the 3 incomings for us, obviously Gareth Cole came in from Australia. He is now off making a name for himself. Everyone's pretty impressed with him up at Hearts in the SPL. He's been off the bench a couple of times, sort of had a few chances, had a few shots on goal, had a few potential assists. The lack of quality in his forwards around him, maybe letting him down a little bit for the assist category. And then he, by his own admission, didn't quite catch the ball properly, but he could have scored at the weekend apparently as well. So look, I think he is definitely an exciting talent, one for the future. I don't know whether he's going to be in and amongst the team next season. Even might be farmed out on loan to get a bit more experience again. We've then collected Anthony Gordon from Everton from the second highest fee for Newcastle United, which has kind of divided the fan base. I mean, we've done the podcast on Gordon. Look, I'm behind the kid. I think he fits us perfectly, ticks the boxes. I don't think he's getting a fair crack from some of the fan base because of his histrionics in the past. But look, he's in the black and white now. He's a shithouse, but he's our shithouse now. Let's get behind him. And then lastly, we managed to get 21-year-old Harrison Ashby, who is a very promising right back who refused to sign a new contract for West Ham. 3 million quid for him. And he comes in to effectively learn off one of the best right backs around in Kieran Trippier. So the future's certainly looking bright. And Harrison Ashby looks like a little mini-me for Trippier as well. He's got a great free kick on him, bombs down the line, got a good shot on him, good passer of the ball, good work rate. So yeah, we should manage to get the most out of him with Trippier mentoring him for the next few seasons. That should be good. But then the outgoings, obviously, big shout out to John Joe. Sort of Voldemort has left the building. Look, he's been phenomenal with us. He's been with us for 7 seasons. Instrumental in getting us back from the championship at the first bounce. He's been in and around. This was probably too good an opportunity for him to turn down to get that extended contract and some guaranteed money. It's probably too good an opportunity for us to turn down to get some money now for him as well, get his wages off the books. Just a little bit of a sour taste, especially with Bruno being out, that we seem to have weakened ourselves in central midfield spots, but time will tell whether that comes back to bite us in the ass. Darlow's gone out on loan, and I believe that's probably about all the business apart from Chris Wood leaving.
Turner Cook went out on loan as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Development players have gone.
Craig, a little bit disappointed with the transfer window, or just happy that we've kept our powder dry and we can go hard in the summer?
50-50 to be honest, because we all had a few names that we wanted to sign, whether we're realistic, semi-realistic or whatever. I've made no bones about it. I wanted Conor Gallagher, and I mentioned in pretty much every second conversation we had in the WhatsApp group. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for that kid. I literally watched him since he was on his loan days at West Brom when he first broke onto the scene. So I've watched him just develop as a player. And I do think his time has come now. I don't think we will move for him. I think in the summer we will go for bigger, better players. Madison was another one that was touted, never happened. But yeah, yes, I'm a bit disappointed we didn't get another midfielder because we absolutely did need it, especially after the events of this morning. But again, we keep going back to this. In Eddie, we trust. He's never let me down yet. Dan's never let me down yet. And if it was a case of making a signing just for the sake of making a signing, who knows what negative impact that player could have had. So I'd rather not bring anyone in and keep the harmony than bring in a shithead, a dickhead, and destroy everything that we've got, or at least attempt to.
No, that's fair. Lee, obviously the summer's going to be interesting now. We clearly need bodies. We clearly have identified some targets, and quite often, quite possibly, a fair few that we don't even know about, let alone the media. So given the high likelihood that we're going to be getting new sponsors in the summer as well, giving us a rather larger pot of cash to spend and a little bit higher ceiling on our financial fair play, are you disappointed we haven't tried to leverage something a little bit more in this window, or are you just happy to kind of say, look, let's just roll the dice, see how it goes. Hopefully we don't pick up loads of injuries and we can really give it a crack in the summer?
Well, I think it's a gamble to let the likes of Shelvey go without a direct replacement in that sort of sentinel defensive midfielder's position, the kind of position that we'd all identified, whilst also assuming that we'd still have Shelvey at the club. And now we don't have Shelvey at the club, and that is now obviously an issue. Whether or not it turns out to be a critical issue, we'll have to wait and see. But that move, as well as the one for Wood, reading between the lines from what Eddie Howe said, they came out of the blue. Really, they were just like, Nottingham Forest chucking the money around again. Like, here's 10, 20 million for your players that either aren't playing or not playing very much. And the club was like, here you go. Do you want Jamal Lewis while you're at it? It was like, take Manquillo. We'll give him for free.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's like they've had offers come in out of nowhere for players that probably don't have a big future at the club. Shelvey hasn't played much this season at all. Chris Wood is a backup of a backup now. He's probably not going to get a lot of extra game time unless we needed a body off the bench just to waste some time or shore things up defensively. And we've effectively recouped, 10 million for Wood, was it?
Was it 10?
I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple where it was like 15 million for him back, 10 million for him back. Whether it was just a loan move and nothing's been finalized fee wise, I don't know. So, but the fact that they've managed to shift his wages, they've shifted Shelvey's wages, two of the highest earners at the club, and managed to get a fee for Shelvey. It's good business. It's very good business.
And that's the only reason why they've done it, because it just made a lot of sense financially. Yeah. We are still under the guy under the umbrella of the FIFA, what do you call it, fair play, the FFP stuff.
Yeah,
we have to still be fairly smart. We're not a team, as Jack has said a million times now. We're not a team who typically sells players and gets money back from them. This is the start of that, perhaps, where we are actually now negotiating prices for some of our guys. And it's not the guys that we are relying on. It's the guys that have either done a job for us or just aren't playing. I mean, I'm not even sure how close Shelvey was to returning, because he's been injured for what seems like forever. Now, I think he's only played 4 or 5 times this season. Would he have played again this season? Maybe, but like...
he would have been bit part players, and then he would have...
Exactly. We wouldn't have been
no.
If he was going to play,
Danny said in his press thing, when he sends out his tweets about the transfers, apparently Shelvey is about 10 days away from full fitness. Whether he's going to start those games or whatever, who knows?
But he had, I think, it was still 2 games away from activating the extension that he had on his contract, and that would have only been a 1-year contract. And this Nottingham Forest, from out of nowhere, they're saying like he's 2.5 years of guaranteed money. Even for him, he's the one who's probably won. He's went for it as well. He's like, this makes sense for my family. You can't blame us for doing that. It does raise the spectre of maybe getting found out later in the season when we don't have that defensive midfield kind of backup. But I think with the likes of Ashby and Garansky there for the future, so they're development players. The only player that we've brought in to really improve the team is obviously Gordon, and I think he'll be fantastic for us. I really do. I think he'll be. He is a shithouse, absolutely, but he's our shithouse now. Did you see? He goes to Fabian Shaw. He goes, so are you going to protect me now? And Fabian Shaw's like, you have to earn it first. And he just sort of goes, and sits down, and Shaw's like, it's like, yeah, mate, that's what you got to earn it, man. You got to earn your shirt at the club, that's the way it is. I thought that was very funny. But
I've been pretty impressed with Gordon's interviews, though. He seems like he's a lot more level-headed kid than I expected him to be.
I think he's determined to do. I think he's determined. I think him and Ashby are genuinely ecstatic to be at this club. This club isn't what this club was 2 years ago anymore. This club is this incredible project in world football, and it's only going to go in one direction. And what we are doing pretty cleverly, and I think this is fairly obvious to everyone, but I'll say it anyway, we're planting little seeds. We're making contact with players and not necessarily thinking we're going to get them in that window. If we do, brilliant. But what we've done is we've planted the seed so that when we go back, that player has had plenty of time to think. They've had plenty of time to watch us go up to 3rd in the league, plenty of time to see us go to a final and potentially lift a cup. So that when you do go back, they're dying to get into this club. They're dying to be here. And it's because it's essentially tapping up. I mean, let's be honest. You essentially tap them up.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to be a bad thing anymore, does it? Like, you basically see all the time. It
exists anymore as a problem. Yeah. No, everyone does it. But
we've already agreed wages with him. Now we just need to sort out a fee with the club. It's like, how does that work?
It'd be illegal.
But it's really we're really kind of getting into the minds of the players, and we're really sort of saying, look, we're the future of where you should be. And if you don't get him at that window, you might get him in the next one. But the ideas are in the heads, and that works in our favour. And Maddison, I suspect, will be another one, unless we get gazumped by Chelsea for like 200 million or something.
Well, Man City's supposed to be after him now.
Yeah, for Man City, yeah, exactly. But I think it's.
But yeah, I think this window's been tinged a little bit with disappointment, mainly because Chelsea's bought up like 3 squads or something, and like broken football.
They've done Forest.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see whether that comes back to bite them in the ass. However, I think we've probably waffled on long enough for this episode, so I think we should wrap things up. Go back to rewatching Longstaff's goals and celebrating and planning what we're going to do for the final.
Get drunk.
I'm going to go get my suit measured.
Gonna get me suit measured. Right. Anyway, thanks for everyone watching on YouTube, for listening on our audio platforms. It's been a blast. Obviously, we'll be covering the club right up until and past the final, if we remember to do anything except lose all of our brain cells if we do manage to win. I will be paralytic for a few days, I imagine, as I imagine most of us will be.
Can you imagine us winning?
There is some talk about some tattoos floating around if we do win. So we'll keep you posted on those new bets that are floating around our group chat. There's screenshots taken of most of the stuff these days just to make sure.
Timmy's going to run naked around the park, apparently.
Yeah. I'm not sure I really need him to come through on that one.
Hope it's not against swings and slides type of park.
Yes. Let's hope he doesn't get arrested. He's definitely not going to London if he gets himself arrested. Yeah. Anyway, let's leave that there. Thanks very much, gents. Lee, Craig, it's been a pleasure. I am still over the moon. So cheers, boys, and we will see everyone in the next show.
How are the lads?
How are the lads?